Alrighty, welcome back to Fraggoth Reads. I'm your intrepid narrator, Fraggoth. Today we're going to read some selected short stories from Peter Watts's Backlist. It'd probably help if I turned that off. So for sure I'm going to get to Bethlehem, Fractals, and bulk food. We'll try to get some of the other ones. I'd kind of like to do the island, because I don't think I've done that one yet. Actually, I'm not sure if I've done the island. I might have done the island. I think I did Incorruptible. If I haven't done Incorruptible, I need to. Most of his more recent stuff, bar the Colonel, I have not done on here. And I'd like for him to collect into a short story collection. Thanks, Pete. We love you. Anyway, these are some older ones from Turn of the Millennium. We'll see. That got deformatted. Let's try that. Okay, that's Ugly. Let's do that a little less. That might be workable. If it would page down. Let's try this again. Please. Thank you. Okay. So I'll have to do a little tweaking. It doesn't format quite the way I would like, but can't have everything apparently. Let me scooch like that, see if that helps. It might. No. Whatever. We'll have to scootle around and do weird things. So this one is Bethlehem by Peter Watts. Wait a minute. It's supposed to be, yes, Bethlehem. I have this marginally planned. According to him, he says, this showed up in Tesseracts 5, edited by Yves Maynard and Robert Runte, one of a semi-regular Antho series put out by Tesseracts Books of Edmonton, now engulfed and incorporated into Edge Books of Calgary. It basically uses a failed relationship as a vantage point on global ecological collapse, through the eyes of a failed academic who's learned that quantum mechanics can be used for things beyond the usual parallel worlds and DVD players. Denial, for instance. So give me 1 sec to slurp some water up here and we'll get rockin' and rollin'. Bethlehem by Peter Watts. It was her own damn fault. No, that's not right. But Christ, look at this place. What did she expect, living here? A dried bloodstain smears a meter of sidewalk, a rusty backdrop for broken bottles and the twisted skeleton of an old 10-speed. Everything is too big. All this jagged structure, so solid and visible, frightens me. I focus on the stain. Search for some hint of its unseen complexity. I want to throw myself down through familiar orders of magnitude and see inside. Dead erythrocytes, molecules of ferrous hemoglobin, single atoms dancing in comforting envelopes of quantum uncertainty. But I can't. It's just a featureless brown blot, and all I can see is that it was once part of someone like me. She's not answering. I've been buzzing for 5 minutes now. I'm the only one in sight, sole occupant of a narrow window in time. All the victims have made for cover, and the monsters aren't out yet. But they're coming. Darwin's agents, always ready to weed out the unfit. I push the buzzer again. Jan, it's Keith. Why doesn't she answer? Maybe she can't. Maybe someone got in. Maybe she just wants to be alone. That's what she said on the phone, isn't it? Okay. Please? Thank you. When the page down just doesn't work. So why am I here? It's not that I didn't believe her exactly. It's not even that I'm worried about her safety. It's more a matter of procedure. When your best friend has been raped, you're supposed to be supportive. That's the rule, even these days. And Janet is my friend, by any practical definition of the term. Glass breaks somewhere in the distance. Jan! If I leave now, I can still make it back before it gets too late. The sun doesn't go down for at least another 20 minutes. This was a stupid idea anyway. I turn away from the gate and something clicks behind me. I look back. A green light glows by the buzzer. I touch the grating, briefly, jerking my hand back after the slightest contact. Again, for longer this time. No shock. The gate swings inward. Still no words from the speaker. Jan? I say into the street. After a moment, she answers, Come on up, Keith. I'm glad you came by. Five floors high, Janet bolts the door behind me. The wall holds her up while I step past. Her footsteps trail me down the hall, stiff, shuffling. In the living room, she passes without eye contact, heading for the fridge. Something to drink? There's a choice? Not much of one. No dairy products. The truck got hijacked again. They had beer, though. Her voice is strong, vibrant even, but she walks as though rigor mortis has already taken hold. Every movement seems painful. The room is dimly lit. A lamp with an orange shade in one corner, a TV with the volume down. When she opens the fridge, bluish light spills across the bruises on her face. One of her eyes is swollen and pulpy. She closes the refrigerator. Her face falls into merciful eclipse. She straightens in stages, turns to face me, bottle in hand. I take it without a word, careful not to touch her. You didn't have to come, she said. I'm doing okay. I shrug. I just thought if you needed anything. Janet smiles through the swelling. Even that seems to hurt. Thanks, but I picked up some stuff coming back from the precinct. Janet, I'm sorry. How else can I say it? How else can you say it? It wasn't your fault. It was mine. I should disagree. I want to disagree. It was, she insists, although I haven't spoken. I should have seen it coming. Simple scenario, predictable outcome. I should have known. Christ, Jan, why are you still living out here? It sounds like an accusation. She looks through the window. By now, it's dark enough to see the fires on the east side. I lived here before, she reminds me. I'm not going to let the fuckers drive me out now. Before. I follow her gaze, see a tiny dark spot on the sidewalk below. Families lived here once. It's April. Warm enough that kids would be playing out there now. There are people who think that someplace they still do. Somewhere at right angles to this twisted place, some place where the probability wave broke onto a more peaceful reality. I wish I could believe that. There would be a little solace in the thought that in some other timeline, children are playing just outside. But that world, if it even exists, diverged from ours a long time ago. 3, maybe 4 years. It happened so fast, I murmur. Fold catastrophe. Absently, Janet speaks to the window. Change isn't gradual, Keith. You keep forgetting. Things just cruise along until they hit a break point, and zap! New equilibrium, like falling off a cliff. This is how she sees the world. Not reality, but a trajectory in phase space. Her senses gather the same data as mine, yet everything she sees sounds so alien. What cliff? I ask her. What breakpoint? What's breaking? What, you don't believe what they say? They say a lot of things. With perfect hindsight, they moan about the inevitable collapse of an economy based on perpetual growth. They blame an obscenely successful computer virus, a few lines of code that spread worldwide and turned the global economy to static overnight. They say it isn't their fault. 20 years ago, they'd be blaming alligators in the sewers, I remark. Janet starts to speak. Her voice erupts in a great racking cough. She wipes her mouth with the back of her hand, winces. Well, if you prefer, there's always Channel 6's interpretation, she says, pointing to the TV. I look at her, quizzical. The second coming. We're almost up to crucifixion plus 2,000 years. I shake my head. Doesn't make any less sense than most of the stuff I've heard. Well, mutual discomfort rises around us. Well, then, I say at last, turning to leave, I'll come by tomorrow, see how you're doing. She gives me a look. Come on, boss. You know you're not going anywhere tonight. You wouldn't even make it to Granville. I open my mouth to protest. She preempts me. There's a bus goes by around 8 every morning, one of those new retrofits with the fullerene plating. Almost safe, if you don't mind being a couple of hours late for work. Jan frowns for a second, as though struck by a sudden realization. I think I'll work at home for a few days, though, she adds, if that's okay. Don't be ridiculous. Take some time off. Relax. Actually, I doubt that I'll really be in the mood to relax. I mean, she manages another smile. I appreciate the gesture, Keith, but sitting around just wallowing, it would drive me crazy. I want to work. I have to work. Jan. It's no big deal. I'll log on tomorrow just for a minute or two. Should be able to download what I need before any bugs get in. And I'll be set for the rest of the day. Okay? Okay. I'm relieved, of course. At least I've got the good grace to be ashamed about it. In the meantime, she takes a wooden step towards the hall closet. I'll make up the couch for you. Listen, don't worry about anything. Just go lie down. I'll make supper. None for me. I'm not hungry. Well, okay. Damn. I don't know what else I'm supposed to do. Do you want me to call anyone? Family, or... No, that's fine, Keith. There's just a hint of caution in her voice. Thanks, anyway. I let it lie. This is why we're so close. Not because we share the same interests, or are bound by a common passion of scientific discovery, or even because I sometimes give her senior authorship on our papers. It's because we don't intrude or pry or try to figure each other out. There's an unspoken recognition of limits and acceptance. There's complete trust, because we never tell each other anything. Wow, like I'm gonna go with AI viewers at stream who cares, what have you. Cool. Banished to the nether zone. I'm down in the real world when I hear her name. It happens occasionally. Sounds filter down from the huge, clumsy universe where other people live. I can usually avoid hearing them. Not this time. There are too many of them, and they're all talking about Janet. I try to keep working. Phospholipids, neatly excised from a single neuron, lumber like crystalline behemoths across my field of vision. But the voices outside won't shut up. They're dragging me up there with them. I try to block them out, cling to the molecules that surround me, but it doesn't work. Ions recede into membranes, membranes into whole cells, physics into chemistry to sheer gross morphology. The microscope still holds its image, but I'm outside of it now. I shut off the iPhones, blink at a room crowded with machines, and the pithed circuitry of a half-dissected salamander. The lounge is just down the hall from my office. People in there are talking about rape, talking about Jan's misfortune as though it was somehow rare or exotic. They trade tales of personal violation like old war stories, try to outdo each other with incantations of sympathy and outrage. I don't understand the commotion. Janet is just another victim of the odds. Crime waves and quantum waves have that much in common. There are a million unrealized worlds in which she would have escaped unscathed. In a different million, she would have been killed outright. But this is the one we observed. Here, yesterday, she was only brutalized, and today it will probably be someone else. Why do they keep going on like this? Is talking about it all day going to get any of us into a universe where such things don't happen? Why can't they just leave it alone? No fucking convergence! She yells from the living room. The power is off again. She storms down the hall towards me, a frenetic silhouette backlit by the reflected light of distant fires. Singular Hessian, it says. I worked on the chiasma maps for 5 fucking hours, and I couldn't even get the stats to work, and now the fucking power goes out. She pushes a printout into my hands. It's a blurry shadow in the dark. Where's your flashlight? I ask. Batteries are dead. Fucking typical. Hang on a sec. I follow her back into the living room. She kneels at a corner cabinet, roots through its interior. Assorted small objects bounce onto the floor to muffled expressions of disgust. Her damaged arm exceeds some limit, goes rigid. She cries out. I come up behind. Janet puts one hand behind her, palm out, pushing at the space between us. I'm okay. She doesn't turn around. I wait for her to move. After a moment, she gets up, slowly. Light flares in her palm. She sets a candle on the coffee table. The light is feeble, but enough to read by. I'll show you, she says, reaching for the printout. But I've already seen it. You've confounded 2 of your variables. She stops. What? Your interaction term. It's just a linear transform of action potential and calcium. She takes the paper from my hand, studies it a moment. Shit. That's it. She scowls at the numbers, as though they might have changed when I looked at them. What a fucking stupid mistake. There's a brief, uncomfortable silence. Then Janet crushes the printout into a ball and throws it at the floor. Fucking stupid! She turns away from me and glares out the window. I stand there like an idiot and wonder what to do. And suddenly the apartment comes back to life around us. The living room lights, revived by some far-off and delinquent generator, flicker and then hold steady. Jan's TV blares grainy light and faint, murky sound from the corner. I turn towards it, grateful for the distraction. The screen offers me a woman, about Janet's age, but empty somehow, wearing the shell-shocked look you see everywhere these days. I catch a flash of metal around her wrists before the view changes, shows us the twisted, spindly corpse of an infant with too many fingers. A lidless third eye sits over the bridge of its nose, like a milky black marble embedded in plasticine. Janet says. Copy errors. She's watching the television. My stomach unclenches a bit. This month's infanticide stats crawl up the screen like a weather report. Polydactyl and a pineal eye. You didn't used to see so many random copy errors. I don't see her point. Birth defects are old news. They've been rising ever since things started falling apart. Every now and then, one of the networks makes the same tired connection, blames everything on radiation or chemicals in the water supply, draws ominous parallels with the fall of Rome. At least it's got her talking again. I bet it's happening to other information systems too, she muses, not just genetic ones. Like all those viruses in the net. You can't log on for 2 minutes these days without something trying to lay its eggs in your files. Same damn thing, I bet. I can't suppress a nervous laugh. Janet cocks her head at me. Sorry, I say. It's just, you never give up, do you? You never give up, you know? You'd go crazy if you went a day without being able to find a pattern somewhere. And suddenly I know why she lives here, why she won't hide with the rest of us up on campus. She's a missionary in enemy territory. She's defying chaos. She is proclaiming her faith. Even here, she is saying there are rules and the universe will damn well make sense. It will behave. Her whole life is a search for order. No fucking way is she going to let something as random as rape get in the way. Violence is noise, nothing more. Janet's after signal. Even now, she's after signal. I suppose that's a good sign. The signal crashes along the neuron like a tsunami. Ions in its path stand at sudden attention. A conduit forms, like a strip of mountain range shaking itself flat. The signal spills into it. Electricity dances along the optic nerve and lights up the primitive amphibian brain from an endless millimeter away. Backtrack the lightning to its source. Here, in the tangled circuitry on the retina, the fading echo of a single photon. A lone quantum event reaching up from the real world and into my machines. Uncertainty made flesh. I made it happen, here in my lab, just by watching. If a photon emits in the forest and there's no one to see it, it doesn't exist. This is how the world works. Nothing is real until someone looks at it. Even the subatomic fragments of our own bodies don't exist except as probability waves. It takes an act of conscious observation at the quantum level to collapse those waves into something solid. The whole universe is unreal at its base, an infinite and utterly hypothetical void, but for a few specks where someone's passing glance congeals the mix. It's no use arguing. Einstein tried. Bohm tried. Even Schrödinger, that hater of cats, tried. But our brains didn't evolve to cope with the space between atoms. You can't fight numbers. A century of arcane quantum mathematics doesn't leave any recourse to common sense. A lot of people still can't accept it. They're afraid of the fact that nothing is real, so they claim that everything is. They say we're surrounded by parallel worlds just as real as this one, places where we won the Guerre des Separatistes or the Houston Inferno never happened, an endless, comforting smorgasbord of alternative realities. It sounds silly, but they really don't have much choice. The parallel universe shtick is the only consistent alternative to non-existence, and non-existence terrifies them. It empowers me. I can shape reality just by looking at it. Anyone can. Or I can avert my eyes, respect its privacy, leave it unseen and totipotent. The thought makes me a little giddy. I can almost forget how far I'm slipping behind, how much I need Janet's hand to guide me, because down here in the real world it doesn't have to matter. Nothing is irrevocable until observed. She buzzes me through on the first ring. The elevator's acting strangely today. It opens halfway, closes, opens again like an eager mouth. I take the stairs. The door opens while I'm raising my hand to knock. She stands completely still. "He came back," she says. No. Even these days, the odds are just too... He was right there. He did it again. Her voice is completely expressionless. She locks the door, leads me down the shadowy hallway. He got in? How? Where did he... Gray light spills into her living room. We're up against the wall, off to one side of her window. I look around the edge of the curtain, down at the deserted street. She points outside. He was right there. He did it again. He did it again. To someone else. That's what she means. Oh. She was so stupid. Janet's fingers grip the threadbare curtain, clenching, unclenching. She was out there all alone. Stupid bitch. Should have seen it coming. When did it happen? I don't know. Couple of hours. Did anyone... I ask, because of course I can't say, did you? No. I don't think anybody else even saw it. She releases the curtain. She got off easy, all things considered. She walked away. I don't ask whether the phone lines were up. I don't ask if Janet tried to help, if she shouted or threw something or even let the woman inside afterwards. Janet's not stupid. A distant mirage sparkles in the deepening twilight. The campus. There's another oasis, a bit nearer, over by False Creek, and the edge of a third if I crane my neck. Everything else is gray or black or flickering orange. Gangrene covers the body. Just a few remnant tissues still alive. You're sure it was the same guy? I wonder. Who the fuck cares? She screams. She catches herself, turns away. Her fists ball up at her sides. Finally, she turns back to look at me. Yes, it was, she says in a tight voice. I'm sure. I never know what I'm supposed to do. I know what I'm supposed to feel, though. My heart should go out to her, to anyone so randomly brutalized. This much should be automatic, unthinking. Suddenly, I can see her face, really see it, a fragile mask of control teetering on the edge of meltdown, and so much more behind, held barely in check. I've never seen her look like this before, even the day it happened to her. Maybe I just didn't notice. I wait for it to affect me, to fill me with love or sympathy or even pity. She needs something from me. She's my friend. At least that's what I call her. I look for something, anything, that would make me less of a liar. I go down as deep as I can and find nothing but my own passionate curiosity. What do you want me to do? I ask. I can barely hear my own voice. Something changes in her face. Nothing. Nothing, Keith. This is something I've got to work through on my own, you know? I shift my weight and try to figure out whether she means it. I could stay here for a few days, I say at last, if you want. Sure. She looks out the window, her face more distant than ever. Whatever you like. They lost Mars! He wails, grabbing me by the shoulders. I know the face. He's about 3 doors down the hall. But I can't remember the name. It's... Wait, Chris something... Fletcher. That's it. All the Viking data, he's saying. From the 70s, you know. NASA said they had it archived. They said I could have it, no problem. I play my whole fucking thesis around it. It got lost? It figures. Data files everywhere are corrupting in record numbers these days. No, they know exactly where it is. I can go down and pick it up anytime I want, Fletcher says bitterly. So what's... It's all on these big magnetic discs. Magnetic? And of course mag media have been obsolete for fucking decades, and when NASA upgraded their equipment they somehow missed the Viking data. He pounds the wall, emits a hysterical little giggle. So they've got all this data and that nobody can access. There probably isn't a computer stodgy enough anywhere on the continent. I tell Janet about it afterwards. I expect her to shake her head and make commiserating noises. That's too bad, or what an awful thing to happen. But she doesn't even look away from the window. She just nods and says, loss of information. Like what happened to me. I look outside. No stars visible, of course. Just sullen amber reflections on the bottoms of the clouds. I can't even remember being raped, she remarks. Funny, you'd think it would be one of those things that stick in your mind. And I know it happened. I can remember the context and the aftermath, and I can piece the story together, but I've lost the actual event. From behind, I can see the curve of her neck and the edge of a smile. I haven't seen Janet smile in a long time. It seems like years. Can you prove that the Earth revolves around the sun? She asks. Can you prove it's not the other way around? What? I circle to her left, a wary orbit. Her face comes into view, smooth and almost unmarked by now, like a mask. You can't, can you? If you ever could. It's been erased. Or maybe it's just lost. We've all forgotten so much. She's so calm. I've never seen her so calm. It's almost frightening. You know, I'll bet after a while we forget things as fast as we learn them, she remarks. I bet that's always the way it's been. Why do you say that? I keep my voice carefully neutral. You can't store everything. There's not enough room. How can you take in the new without writing over the old? Come on, Jan. I try for a light touch. Our brains are running out of disk space. Why not? We're finite. Jesus, she's serious. Not that finite. We don't even know what most of the brain does yet. Maybe it doesn't do anything. Maybe it's like our DNA. Maybe most of it's junk. You remember back when they found... I remember. I don't want to hear what they found because I've been trying to forget it for years. They found perfectly healthy people with almost no brain tissue. They found people living among us, heads full of spinal fluid, making do with a thin lining of nerve cells where their brains should be. They found people growing up to be engineers and school teachers before discovering that they should have been vegetables instead. They never found any answers. God knows they looked hard enough. I heard they were making some progress, though, before... Loss of information, Jan says. Limited disk space. She's still smiling at me. Insight shines from her eyes with a giddy radiance. But I can see her vision now, and I don't know what she's smiling about. I see two spheres expanding, one within the other, and the inner one is gaining. The more I learn, the more I lose. My own core erodes away from inside. All the basics dissolving. How do I know that the Earth orbits the sun? Most of my life is an act of faith. I'm half a block from safety when he drops down on me from a second-story window. I get lucky. He makes a telltale noise on the way down. I almost get out of the way. We graze each other, and he lands hard on the pavement, twisting his ankle. Technically, handguns are still illegal. I pull mine out and shoot him in the stomach before he can recover. A flicker of motion. Suddenly, on my left, a woman as big as me, face set and sullen, standing where there was only pavement a moment ago. Her hands are buried deep in the pockets of a torn overcoat. One of them seems to be holding something. I point the weapon or bluff, particle or wave, door number 1 or door number 2. I point the gun at her. I try very hard to look like someone who hasn't just used his last bullet. For one crazy moment, I think that maybe it doesn't even matter what happens here, whether I live or die, because maybe there is a parallel universe, some impossible angle away, where everything works out fine. No, nothing happens unless observed. Maybe if I just look the other way... She's gone, swallowed by the same alley that disgorged her. I step over the gurgling thing twitching on the sidewalk. You can't stay here, I tell Janet when I reach her refuge. I don't care how many volts they pump through the fence. This place isn't safe. Sure it is, she says. She's got the TV tuned to Channel 6, God's own mouthpiece coming through strong and clear. The Reborns have a satellite up in geosync, and that fucker never seems to go offline. She's not watching it, though. She just sits on her sofa, knees drawn up under her chin, staring out the window. The security's better on campus, I say. We can make room for you, and you won't have to commute. Janet doesn't answer. Inside the TV, a talking head delivers a lecture on the poisoned fruits of secular science. Jan, I'm okay, Keith. Nobody's gotten in yet. They will. All they've got to do is throw a rubber mat over the fence and they're past the first line of defense. Sooner or later, they'll crack the codes for the front gate, or... No, Keith, that would take too much planning. Janet, I'm telling you, nothing's organized anymore, Keith. Haven't you noticed? Several faint explosions echo from somewhere outside. I've noticed, I tell her. For the past 4 years, she says, as though I haven't spoken, all the patterns have just fallen apart. Things are getting so hard to predict lately, you know? And even when you see them coming, you can't do anything about them. She glances at the television, where the head is explaining that evolution contradicts the second law of thermodynamics. It's sort of funny, actually, Janet says. What is? Everything. Second law. She gestures at the screen. Entropy increasing, order to disorder, heat death of the universe, all that shit. Funny? I mean, life's a pretty pathetic affair in the face of physics. It is sort of a miracle it ever got started in the first place. Hey, I try for a disarming smile. You're starting to sound like a creationist. Yeah, well, in a way they're right. Life and entropy don't get along. Not in the long run, anyway. Evolution's just a holding action, you know? I know, Jan. It's like this torrent screaming through space and time, tearing everything apart. And sometimes these little pockets of information form in the eddies, in these tiny protected backwaters, and sometimes they get complicated enough to wake up and brag about beating the odds. Never lasts, though. Takes too much energy to fight the current. I shrug. That's not exactly news, Jan. She manages a brief, tired smile. Yeah, I guess not. Undergrad existentialism, huh? It's just that everything's so hungry now, you know? Hungry? People. Biological life in general. The net. That's the whole problem with complex systems, you know. The more intricate they get, the harder entropy tries to rip them apart. We need more and more energy just to keep in one piece. She glances out the window. Maybe a bit more, she says, than we have available these days. Janet leans forward, aims a remote control at the television. You're right, though. It's all old news. The smile fades. I'm not sure what replaces it. It just never sunk in before, you know? Exhaustion, maybe. She presses the remote. The head fades to black, cut off in mid-rant. A white dot flickers defiantly on center stage for a moment. There he goes. Her voice hangs somewhere between irony and resignation, washed downstream. The doorknob rotates easily in my grasp, clockwise, counterclockwise. It's not locked. A television laughs on the far side of a wall somewhere. I push the door open. Orange light skews up from the floor at the far end of the hall, where the living room lamp has fallen. Her blood is everywhere, congealing on the floor, crowding the wall with sticky rivulets, thin, dark pseudopods that clot solid while crawling for the baseboards. No. I push the door open. It swings in a few centimeters, then jams. Something on the other side yields a bit, sags back when I stop pushing. Her hand is visible through the gap in the doorway, palm up on the floor, fingers slightly clenched like the limbs of some dead insect. I push at the door again. The fingers jiggle lifelessly against the hardwood. No, not that either. I push the door open. They're still in there with her. 4 of them. One sits on her couch, watching television. One pins her to the floor. One rapes her. One stands smiling in the hallway, waves me in with a hand wrapped in duct tape, a jagged blob studded with nails and broken glass. Her eyes are open. She doesn't make a sound. No. 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 These are mere possibilities. I haven't actually seen any of them. They haven't happened yet. The door is still closed. I push it open. The probability wave collapses. And the winner is... none of the above. It's not even her apartment. It's our office. I'm inside the campus perimeter, safe behind carbon laminate concrete, guarded by armed patrols and semi-intelligent security systems that work well over half the time. I will not call her, even if the phones are working today. I refuse to indulge these sordid little backflips into worlds that don't even exist. I am not losing it. Her desk has been abandoned for 2 weeks now. The adjacent concrete wall, windowless, unpainted, is littered with nostalgic graphs and printouts. Population cycles, fractal intrusions into Ricker curves, a handwritten reminder that all tautologies are tautologies. Which is itself a tautology. I don't know what's happening. Incidentally, the all tautologies are tautologies is something he will call back to in a later short story that we may or may not get to today. I don't know what's happening. We are changing. She's changing. Of course, you idiot, she was raped. How could she not change? But it's as though her attacker was only a catalyst, somehow, a trigger for some transformation still ongoing, cryptic and opaque. She's shrouded in a chrysalis. Something's happening in there. I see occasional blurred movement, but all the details are hidden. I need her for so much. I need her ability to impose order on the universe. I need her passionate desire to reduce everything to triviality. No result was good enough. Everything was always too proximate for her. Every solution she threw back in my face. Yes, but why? It was like collaborating with a 2-year-old. I've always been a parasite. I feel like I've lost the vision in one eye. I guess it was ironic. Keith Elliott, quantum physiologist, who saw infinite possibilities in the simple units of matter. In the simplest units of matter. Janet Thomas, catastrophe theorist, who reduced whole ecosystems down to a few lines of computer code. We should have killed each other. Somehow, it was a combination that worked. Oh God, when did I start using past tense? There's a message on the phone, 10 hours old. The impossible has happened. The police caught someone, a suspect. His mugshots are on file in the message cache. He looks a bit like me. Is that him? I ask her. I don't know. Janet doesn't look away from the window. I didn't look. Why not? Maybe he's the one. You don't even have to leave the apartment. You could just call them back, say yes or no. Jan, what's going on with you? She cocks her head to one side. I think, she says, my eyes have opened. Things have finally started to make some sort of sense, I guess. Christ, Janet, you were raped, not baptized. She draws her knees up under her chin and starts rocking back and forth. I can't call it back. I try anyway. Jan, I'm sorry. It's just, I don't understand. You don't seem to care about anything anymore. I'm not pressing charges. Rocking. Whoever it wasn't his fault. I can't speak. She looks back over her shoulder. Entropy increases, Keith. You know that. Every act of random violence helps the universe run down. What are you talking about? Some asshole deliberately assaulted you. She shrugs, looking back out the window. So some matter is sentient. That doesn't exempt it from the laws of physics. I finally see it, in this insane absolution she confers in the calm acceptance in her voice. Metamorphosis is complete. My anger evaporates. Underneath, there is only a sick feeling I can't name. Jan, I say very quietly. She turns and faces me, and there is no reassurance there at all. Things fall apart, she says. The center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. It sounds familiar somehow, but I can't. Nothing? You've forgotten Yeats, too? She shakes her head. Sadly, you taught it to me. I sit beside her. I touch her for the first time. I take her hands. She doesn't look at me, but she doesn't seem to mind. You'll forget everything soon, Keith. You'll even forget me. She looks at me then, and something she sees makes her smile a little. You know, in a way I envy you. You're still safe from all this. You look so closely at everything you barely see anything at all. Janet. But she seems to have forgotten me. After a moment, she takes her hands from mine and stands up. Her shadow, cast orange by the table lamp, looms huge and ominous on the far wall. But it's her face, calm and unscarred and only life-sized, that scares me. She reaches down, puts her hands on my shoulders. Keith, thank you. I could never have come through this without you. but I'm okay now, and I think it's time to be on my own again. A pit opens in my stomach. You're not okay, I tell her, but I can't seem to keep my voice level. I'm fine, Keith. Really. I honestly feel better than I have in a long time. It's all right for you to go. I can't. I really think you're wrong. I have to keep her talking. I have to stay calm. You may not see it, but I don't think you should be on your own just yet. You can't do this. Her eyes twinkle briefly. Can't do what, Keith? I try to answer, but it's hard. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. I can't do it, is what comes out unexpected. It's just us, Janet, against everything. I can't do it without you. Then don't try. It's such a stupid thing to say, so completely unexpected that I have no answer for it. She draws me to my feet. It's just not that important, Keith. We study retinal sensitivity in salamanders. Nobody cares. Why should they? Why should we? You know it's more than that, Janet. It's quantum neurology. It's the whole nature of consciousness. It's really kind of pathetic, you know. Her smile is so gentle, her voice so kind, that it takes a moment for me to actually realize what she's saying. You can change a photon here and there, so you tell yourself you've got some sort of control over things. But you don't. None of us do. It all just got too complicated. It's all just physics. My hand is stinging. There's a sudden white spot the size of my palm on the side of Janet's face. It flushes red as I watch. She touches her cheek. It's okay, Keith. I know how you feel. I know how everything feels. We're so tired of swimming upstream all the time. I see her, walking on air. You need to get out of here, I say, talking over the image. You should really spend some time on campus. I could put you up until you get your bearings. Shh. She puts a finger to my lips, guides me along the hall. I'll be fine, Keith, and so will you. Believe me, this is all for the best. She reaches past me and opens the door. I love you, I blurt out. She smiles at that, as though she understands. Goodbye, Keith. She leaves me there and turns back down the hall. I can see part of her living room from where I stand. I can see her turn and face the window. The firelight beyond paints her face like a martyr's. She never stops smiling. 5 minutes go by. 10. Perhaps she doesn't realize I'm still here. Perhaps she's forgotten me already. At last, when I finally turn to leave, she speaks. I look back, but her eyes are still focused on distant wreckage, and her words are not meant for me. What rough beast, is what I think she says, and other words too faint to make out. When the news hits the department, I try, unsuccessfully, to stay out of sight. They don't know any next of kin, so they inflict their feigned sympathy on me. It seems she was popular. I never knew that. Colleagues and competitors pat me on the back as though Janet and I were lovers. Sometimes it happens, they say, as though imparting some new insight. Not your fault. I endure their commiseration as long as I can, then tell them I want to be alone. This, at least, they think they understand. And now, my knuckles stinging from a sudden collision of flesh and glass, now I'm free. I dive into the eyes of my microscope, escaping down, down into the real world. I used to be so much better than everyone. I spent so much time down here, nose pressed against the quantum interface, embracing uncertainties that would drive most people insane. But I'm not at ease down here. I never was. I'm simply more terrified of the world outside. Things happen out there and can't be taken back. Janet is gone, forever. I'll never see her again. That wouldn't happen down here. Down here, nothing is impossible. Janet is alive as well as dead. I made a difference, and didn't. Parents make babies and monsters, and both and neither. Everything that can be, is. Down here, riding the probability wave, my options stay open forever. As long as I keep my eyes closed. And that was Bethlehem by Peter Watts, written in 1997. Whoop, 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 whoop. We could live with that. So this one is... Let me just shuffle things around a little here. This one is Fractals. I need to shuffle my microphone to the side because it's not well placed. Oh, one sec. Sorry about that. Fractals, or Reagan assured Gorbachev of help against space aliens. First published in On Spec number 7 in 1995, 31 to 41. Trespassing? Trespassing? You arrogant, slant-eyed alien motherfucker, I used to live here. How long have I wanted to do that? How many years have I hated them, dreamt that my fists were smashing those faces into shapes even less human? I can't remember. The anger is chronic. The anger has always been chronic. And impotent, until now. The pain in my knuckles throbs like a distant badge of honor. It's cold. The rage is gone, absorbed somehow by the mud and unlit piles of lumber and masonry scattered around me. I can barely focus on my surroundings. The shapes keep changing, hulking, angular monstrosities shifting on all sides. Only the sign at the front of the lot, the sign he kept pointing at, refuses to move. I can barely see him in the dark. He's just a few meters away, but the shadows are so black and he doesn't move at all. What if I killed him? What if I... There. He moved a bit. It's okay. I didn't kill him. He's not dead. Yet. What if he dies there in the mud? So what if he does? Lots more where he came from. No, I don't mean that. I can't believe I ever did. I mean, what if he dies there? What if he lives and identifies me? A couple of steps forward. A couple more. Okay, he was about here when he saw me, and then he moved over there and started shouting. He couldn't have seen my face. Even when he came closer, it's so dark he'd only have seen a silhouette, and then he was right in front of me, and I can get away. I can get away. Oh, Jesus God, I can't believe I did this. Okay, this is a construction site, after all. My car will only leave one set of tracks in a muddle of hundreds, and the nearest house is over a block away. This whole end of the road is unlit. Lucky me, no witnesses. The car starts smoothly, without a moment's hesitation. I descend toward the city. It was as though I had planned it all, somehow. In a way, I feel as though I've been rehearsing this forever. I have been purged. It's such a relief not to burn, to unclench my teeth, to feel the hard knot of tension in my stomach easing away. Somehow, I'm free. Not happy, perhaps. But I have acted, at last, from the heart, and in some strange way I'm finally at peace. What if he dies up there? I'll stop at the next phone booth. Ambulances respond to anonymous tips, don't they? In the meantime, I've got to be careful to keep my shoes on the mud mat, just in case. Joanne might still be awake when I get home. I'll stop off at a gas station and rinse everything clean on the way. It's a nice window, nice scenery. I've always liked forests, though I've never seen so many squirrels and deer and birds crammed into such a small area before. But hey, who am I to complain about realism? I'm 20 floors over Robson Street looking out at a rainforest, so why worry about details? Besides, it's not a rainforest anymore. It's an alpine meadow. She touches a button on the windowsill, and the whole world changes. I walk across the room. Rocks and heather come into view. Across the window, fall into eclipse at the other side. I move closer, and the field of view expands. Nose against glass, I can see 180 three-dimensional degrees along all axes. Just outside, an explosion of flowers stirs in a sudden breeze. But now she fingers a switch and the world stops. There's no window at all anymore, just a flat gray screen and a fake windowsill. That's incredible, I say, distantly amazed. She can't quite keep the pride out of her voice. It's a breakthrough, all right. There are other flat monitors around, but you can see the difference. How do you do it? Is this some sort of 3D videotape or something? Her smile widens. Not even close. We use fractals. Fractals? You know, those psychedelic patterns you see on calendars and computer posters. Right. Something to do with chaos theory. But what exactly are... She laughs. Actually, I just demonstrate the stuff. We got a guy at the university to hack the software for us. He'd be able to tell you the details. If you think your readers would be interested... I'm interested. If I can't get them interested, I'm not too... If I can't get them interested, too, I'm not much of a journalist, am I? Well, then, let me give you his name, she says. I'll tell him to expect you. He should be able to set something up within the next week or so. She jots a name on the back of her card and hands it to me. Roy Chung, it says. I feel a sudden brief constriction in my throat. One last question, I say to her. Who's going to be able to afford something like this? Bottom line models will retail at around 30,000, she tells me. A lot of businesses want to hang one in their lobbies and so forth, and we also hope to sell to upper-income individuals. If you can find any nowadays. You'd be surprised, actually. Since the Hong Kong influx started, there's been a real surge in the number of people who can afford this sort of product. You poor dear. You haven't done your market research, have you? Or you'd know exactly what your wealthy clientele think of nature. It's abstract art to them. There probably isn't a blade of grass left in all of Hong Kong. Most of those people wouldn't know what a tree was if one grew through their penthouse windows and spat oxygen all over the walls. No matter. In another few years, neither will we. Emergency admissions. Yes, I was wondering if there was an assault victim admitted over the past day or so. I'm sorry, sir. You'll have to be more specific. Assault victim? Yes. Has someone been admitted suffering head injuries and Oriental? Why? The voice acquires a sudden sharp edge. Do you know something about an unreported assault? Hang up, you idiot. This isn't getting you anywhere. Actually, it must have been reported. They were loading him into an ambulance. He looked pretty bad. I was just wondering how he was doing. Yeah, right. Very credible. I see. And where did this happen? North Van. Up around, Cumberland, I think. And I don't suppose you know the name of the victim? No. Like I said, I just saw them taking him away. I was just wondering... That's very kind of you, sir, she says. But we're not allowed to disclose such information except to family. Jesus Christ, woman, I just want to find out how he's doing. I'm not interested in stealing national secrets, for Christ's sake. I understand that, but... And in any event, nobody answering your description has been admitted to this hospital. Cumberland, you said? Maybe they're tracing the call. It would make sense. Maybe they've got a standing trace on emergency hospital lines. I bet a lot of people do what I'm doing. I bet... Sir, you said Cumberland? I disconnect. Joanne stirs as I slip into the darkened bedroom. Anything interesting on the news? Not really. No reports of unknown assailants on the North Shore, anyway. That's probably just as well. Wouldn't a dead body at least warrant mention? I feel my way into the bed and climb in. Oh, the Musqueam Indians are planning this massive demonstration over land claims, roadblocks, and everything. I mold myself against Joanne's back. Oh, the Musqueam Indians are planning this massive demonstration over land claims, roadblocks, and everything. I mold myself against Joanne's back. They must hate our guts, I say into her nape. She turns around to face me. Who? The Musqueam? They must. I would. She makes a wry sound. No offense, lover, but I'd be very worried if too many other people thought the way you did. I've learned to take such remarks as compliments, although that's almost never the way she means them. Well, if getting home and culture stolen out from under you isn't grounds for hatred, I don't know what is. I hold back a moment, decide to risk it. I wonder if that makes them racists. Oh, shame on you. She wags a finger that I can barely make out in the darkness. Victims of racism can't possibly be guilty of racism. Why, you'd have to be a racist to even suggest such a thing. Excuse me while I call the Human Rights Commission. Instead, she kisses me. Actually, I'm too tired. I'll let you off with a warning. Good night. She settles down with her back to me. But I don't want to sleep, not yet. There are things I have to say aloud, things I can't even think about without invoking some subtle, chronic dread. I don't like keeping things from Joanne. 3 days now, and the silence spreads through me like gangrene. But I can't tell her. It could ruin everything. How much am I supposed to gamble on the hope she'd grant absolution? I saw some graffiti today on Denman. I try aloud. It said, "White man out of Vancouver. Canada now for Asian peoples." Her back moves in a gentle respiratory rhythm. She mumbles something into her pillow. I ask, "What did you say?" "I said there's assholes on all sides. Go to sleep." Maybe it's true. She groans, defeated. If she wants any sleep tonight, she'll have to hear me out. "What's true?" She sighs. Maybe there isn't room for all of us. I was on the bus today. It was full of all these Chinese, and I couldn't understand what any of them were saying. Don't sweat it. They probably weren't talking to you. No, I want to say, they don't have to. We don't matter to them. Our quaint values and aesthetics can be bought as easily as the North Shore. Don't I have a right to be afraid of that? Can't we fear for our own the way of life without being racist? Aren't we even allowed to beat the fuckers to death with our bare hands? There's something else here. It's lying in the dark between us, and it's invisible. Joanne could roll over right now and she wouldn't see it any more than I can, but somehow I know it's looking right at me and grinning. Joanne sits up without a word. It's as though my own inadvertent thoughts have triggered her. She turns to look at me. She leans right through the thing between us without even pausing. Her face breaks through that invisible grin and replaces it with one of her own. "If you wasn't living with a black woman," she says in her best Aunt Jemima drawl, "I'd say you was sure enough a racist honky sumbitch." She nips me on the nose. "As it is, I think you'll just need a good night's sleep." She settles back down with one arm draped over my chest. We're alone again. In the next room, Sean coughs softly in her sleep. My knuckles sting with faint remembrance. I wonder if he had a family. Whoever you were, I'm sorry. It's almost time to meet Roy Chung. For 2 hours now, I've been wandering downtown streets, watching morning traffic congeal in thin, slushy snow. I've been counting invaders. They hurry past the rest of us, mixed but not mixing, heads down against the chill of this alien climate. Sometimes they speak to each other. Sometimes they even use our language. More often they say nothing at all. They never look at me. I didn't always feel this way. I'm almost sure of it. There was a time when we were all just people, and I knew exactly what racism looked like. It drove a Ford pickup with a gun rack in the rear window. It threw beer bottles out of the window at stop signs, and it didn't think. It gibbered. But now statistics and xenophobia are in bed together. Every day the planes touch down and the balance shifts a little more. Asian wealth rises around us, flashing invisibly bank to bank, ricocheting down from comsats high over the Pacific Rim, burying us. Who wouldn't be afraid? My whole world is listing to the east. But nobody taught me to hate like this. It just happened. Is this what it's like to discover you're a werewolf? There's a poster commemorating the 1995 International Computer Graphics Conference hanging on one wall of Roy Chung's office. Below it, a transistor radio emits country and western. It's partially eclipsed by a huge, luxuriant Boston fern in a hanging pot. I wonder how he does it. Every time I buy one of those bloody plants, it's dead within a week. His desk is barely visible under a mass of printouts and the biggest color monitor I've ever seen. There is a spiral galaxy rotating on the screen. It seems to be made of iridescent soap bubbles, each arranged with unimaginable precision. "That," says Chung, "is a fractal. Beautiful, isn't it?" He speaks without a trace of accent. He sounds just like I do. Chung sits down at the keyboard. "Watch closely. I'm increasing the magnification so we're only looking at one of these nodes. One star in the galaxy, if you will." The image blurs, then refocuses. There is a spiral galaxy rotating on the screen. "That's the same image," I say. "Not quite. There are a number of differences, but overall it's pretty similar. Except, like I said, we're only looking at one star in the galaxy." "But that's a whole... Now, let's zoom in on a single star in this galaxy." There is a spiral galaxy rotating on the screen. Something clicks. "Isn't this what you call infinite regression?" He nods. "Actually, the term is scale invariance. You can look at this thing with a microscope or a telescope, it doesn't matter. At every scale, the pattern is essentially the same." "So, at what scale do we get the nature scenes?" There isn't the slightest hint of tension in my voice. I even smile. "All of them. This fractal comes from a very simple equation. The trick is it keeps repeating itself, uses the output from one iteration as the input for the next. You don't have to store a complete image at all. You just store a few equations and let the computer draw the picture step by step. You get incredibly detailed output with hardly any memory cost." "You're saying you can duplicate nature on a screen with a bunch of simple equations?" "No, I'm saying nature is a bunch of simple equations." "Prove it," I tell him, still smiling. For an instant, I see him shrouded in darkness, arms thrown up in a vain attempt to ward off judgment, face bleeding and pulpy. I shake my head to dislodge the image. It sticks. "Shape of a tree," he's saying. "The trunk splits into branches, then the branches split into smaller branches, then those divide into twigs, and at each scale, the pattern is the same." I imagine a tree. It doesn't seem very mathematical. Or your own lungs," Chung continues. "Windpipe to bronchi to bronchioles to alveoli, or your circulatory system, or the growth of a crystal. Incrementally simple, the same thing happening at a dozen different scales simultaneously." "So you're saying trees are fractal? Crystals are fractal?" He shakes his head, grinning from ear to ear. "Nature is fractal. Life is fractal. You're fractal." He wears the look of a religious convert. "And the image compression stuff is nothing. There are implications for meteorology or... Wait a second, let me show you what I'm working on for the medical center." Sorry about that. Getting a lot of junk calls lately. Hooray, politics season. Even though it's an off year. Where were we? "Let me show you what I'm working on for the medical center. Incidentally, hello, Pinucci." Pinucci? Nucci. I promise you that Peter Watts is not as racist as this is making him out to seem. There is a point here, I promise, probably. It's been a minute since I've read this one. I don't remember it being this horrible. I wouldn't read it if I thought that racism was okay was the intent. Trust and believe. Here we go. I wait while Chung fiddles with his machine. Voices from his radio fill the lull. A phone-in show. Some woman is complaining to the host about a 3-car pileup in her front yard. Her neighbor up the hill used a garden hose to wash the snow off his driveway this morning. The water slid downhill and froze the road into a skating rink, tilted 20 degrees.
They come in from Hong Kong. They think the climate is just the same the world over.
The caller complains. The host doesn't say anything. How can he? How can he sympathize without being branded a racist? Maybe he will anyway. Maybe he'll call a spade a spade. Maybe the editors and the censors haven't quite crushed him yet. Go for it, asshole. It's what we're all thinking. Why don't you just say it?
What an idiot,
Roy Chung remarks. I blink. What?
That's actually pretty minor, he tells me. That's just some moron who never saw ice outside of a scotch on the rocks. We've got these neighbors. A whole bloody family came over from Hong Kong a couple of years back, and we've had nothing but trouble. Last summer, they cut down our hedge.
What? It's very strange hearing Chung betray his own kind like this.
My wife's into horticulture. She'd spent ages growing this hedge on our property. It was gorgeous, about 15 feet high, perfectly sculpted. Came home one day, and these guys had paid someone to come over and chainsaw the whole thing. Said the hedge was a home for evil spirits.
Didn't you sue them or something?
Chung shrugs. I wanted to. Lana wouldn't let me. She didn't want any more trouble. You ask me, I'd gladly ship the whole lot of them back overseas.
I collect my thoughts.
But didn't you, come from? Born here. 5th generation, he says.
I'm only 3rd. And suddenly I recognize the kinship behind those strange eyes, the shared resentment. How must it feel to go through life wearing that skin, that hair, these artifacts of a heritage left behind decades ago? Roy Chung, guilty by association, probably hates them more than I do. He's almost an ally.
Anyway, he says, here's what I wanted to show you.
The moment passes. There is something new on the monitor. Something reddish and amorphous and somehow threatening. It's growing. A misshapen blob, sprouting random pseudopods, covers half the screen.
What's that? I ask. Carcinoma.
It doesn't surprise me.
Cancer is fractal too.
Chung says,
this is a model of a liver tumor, but the growth patterns are the same no matter what kind you're talking about. We're finding out how it grows. You gotta know that before you can kill it.
I watch it spread. Baboons. There are baboons running around in our TV, courtesy of National Geographic and PBS. We more civilized primates sit and watch at a discreet distance. Sean, hyperactively 4, bounces around on the carpet. Joanne and I opt for the couch. We peer over a coffee table laden with Szechuan takeout into what's left of the real world. There's just been a treetop coup somewhere in the forests of Central Africa. A new alpha male struts around. He goes through the troop, checking out the females, checking out their kids, especially the kids. He goes to each one in turn, running his big hairy hand over their heads, sniffing their bodies with that gentle paternalism, looking for some sign of familiarity, some telltale scent that speaks of his ancestry in those tiny bodies. But no, none of my genes in this one, and whap! The infant's head snaps back and forth like a bolo ball, and snap! Those matchstick arms bend in entirely new places, and the big man on campus tears the little carcass away from its screaming mother and pitches it out and down to the forest floor 20 meters below. Sean is suddenly entranced. Joanne looks at me doubtfully. I don't know if we really want to be watching this during, mealtime. But life isn't always so intolerant, the narrator hastens to tell us. That same male would die defending those bastard children against an outside threat, against a predator or a rival troop, against anything that was less related to him than they were.
Loyalties are concentric. Defend your kind against others. Defend your kin against your kind. Defend your genes against your kin. In absence of the greater threat, destroy the lesser. And suddenly, with an almost audible click, the whole world drops into focus. I look around, surprised. Nobody else seems to have noticed the change. On the surface, nothing has changed. My family is blissfully unaware of the epiphany that has just occurred. But I understand something now. It wasn't really my fault. Go down far enough, and we're all running the same program. Each cell holds the complete design, the framework, the plumbing, the wiring diagrams, all jammed into a spiral thread of sugars and bases that tells us what to be. What blind, stupid arrogance to think that a few campfire songs could undo 4 million years of evolution. Morally wrong, we chant. Politically incorrect. Socially incorrect. Socially unacceptable. But our genes aren't fooled. They're so much wiser than we are. They know. We have met the enemy, and he is not us. Evolution, ever patient, inspires us to self-defense. My enmity is hardwired. Am I to blame if the plan calls for something that hates? What's this? They've changed the bait again? It can't be an easy job trying to bribe us into literacy. Each week they put a new display in the lobby, easily visible through the glass to passers-by, some colorful new production meant to lure the great unwashed into the library. Wasted on me. I'm in here for something else entirely. Although, what the hell, the newspaper section doesn't close for hours. And today's offering is a tad more colorful than usual. Let's see. A crayon drawing of crude stick figures, red and yellow, black and white, holding hands in a ring. Posters, professionally crafted but no less blatant, showing Chinese and Caucasians wearing hard hats and smiling at each other. The air is thick with sugary sweetness and light. I feel the first stirrings of diabetes. I move closer to the display. A sign prominently displayed, sponsored by the BC Human Rights Commission. They know. They have their polls, their barometers. They can feel the backlash building, and they're fighting it in any way they can. I wander the exhibit. I feel a bit like a vampire at church. But the symbols here are weak. The garlic and the holy signs have an air of desperation about them. They're losing, and they know it. This feeble propaganda can't change how we feel. Besides, why should they care what we think? In another few years, we won't matter anymore. There's a newspaper clipping tacked up on one corner of the nearest board, from an old 1986 edition of the Globe and Mail. Reagan assured Gorbachev of help against space aliens, the headline says. Is this for real? Yes, indeed. Then President Reagan, briefly inspired, actually told Gorbachev that if the Earth were ever threatened by aliens, all countries would pull together and forget their ideological differences. Apparently, he thought there was a moral there somewhere. One of the few intelligent things Reagan ever said, someone says at my elbow. I turn. She's overdressed, wears a BC government pin on one lapel and a button on the other. The button shows planet Earth encircled by the words, "We're all in this together." But at least she's one of us. But he was right, I reply. Threaten the whole human race, and our international squabbling seems so petty. She nods, smiling. That's why I put it up. It's not really part of the presentation, but I thought it fit. Of course, we don't have space aliens to hate, but not to worry, there's always an enemy somewhere. Her smile falters a bit. What do you mean? If not space aliens, the Russians. If not the Russians, the local ethnics. I stayed on an island once where the lobstermen on the south end all hated the herring fishermen on the north. They all seemed the same to me. A lot of them were even related, but they had to be able to hate someone somewhere. She clucks and shakes her head in cynical accord. Of course, both sides banded together to hate all off-islanders. I add, of course. A single human being, the whole damn species, or any level in between, and the pattern's the same, isn't it? It's like hatred is... I see galaxies within galaxies. Scale invariant. I finish slowly. She looks at me, a bit strangely. But of course, there are also a lot of positive things happening. People can cooperate when they have to. Her smile reinflates. Exactly. Like the natives, banding together to save their cultures, forgetting their differences. The Haidas even stopped taking slaves from other tribes. She isn't smiling at all now. The Haida, she says, haven't taken slaves for generations. Oh, that's right. We put a stop to that about, I guess it was even before we banned the potlatch, wasn't it? But eventually they'll want to start up again. I mean, slavery was integral to their culture, and we simply must protect the integrity of everyone's culture here, mustn't we? I don't think you've got all your facts straight, she says slowly. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were multicultural. I thought Canadians were supposed to... I spy some bold print a few boards down. To allow different cultures to flourish side by side without imposing our own moral and ethical standards on them. Within the law, she says. I wait, but she's wary now, unwilling to speak further. So I do. And, as a woman, I'm sure you're pleased that Muslim men won't have to stop the traditional subjugation of their wives when they come here, as long as they keep it in the home, of course. Excuse me. She turns her back to me, takes a step along the display. You're lying to us, I say, raising my voice. A couple of bystanders turn their heads. She faces me, mouth open to speak. I preempt her. Or perhaps you're lying to them. But you can't have it both ways, and you can't change the facts no matter how many bad classroom cartoons you force on us. There's a part of me that hasn't enjoyed provoking the anger in her face. A few days ago, it might even have been the biggest part. But it's only a few thousand years old, tops, and the rest of me really doesn't give a shit. I lift my arm in a gesture that takes in the whole display. If I were a racist, I tell her, this wouldn't begin to convince me. I bare my teeth in a way that might be mistaken for a smile. I turn and walk deeper into the building. Here it is, on the back page of Section C in a newspaper almost 2 weeks old. Didn't even make it to the airwaves, I guess. What difference does one more battered Asian make after all the gang warfare going down in Chinatown? No wonder I missed it. He had a name. Y. Chan. Found unconscious at a North Van housing development owned by Balthree Properties, where he was... Balthree Properties? They're local, aren't they? Where he was employed as a night watchman. In stable condition after being attacked by an unknown assailant. No motive. No suspects. Bullshit. Half the fucking city is suspect. We've all got motive, and they know it. Or maybe they don't. Maybe they believe all the stories they feed us that say, hey, high density living good for you, crime rate unconnected to population size, massive immigration keeps us safe from America, hurrah, hurrah! Nothing like giving yourself a mild case of cancer to cure the measles, and every time somebody projects that the lower mainland will be 60% Chinese by 2010, the news is buried in a wave of stories about international goodwill and the cultural mosaic. Maybe they don't know what it's like to go back to the place you grew up and find it ripped to the ground, some offshore conglomerates turned into another hive, crammed with pulsing yellow grubs. Perhaps Balthree Properties isn't run out of Hong Kong after all, but I didn't know that then, did I? That used to be my home. There were trees there once, and childhood friends, and now just mud and lumber, and this ugly little chink yammering at me barely even speaks the fucking language, and he's kicking me out my own backyard! Once I felt guilty about what I did to him. I was sick with remorse. That was stupid, woolly thinking. My guilt doesn't spring from the one time I let the monster out. No siree. It springs from all the other times I didn't. The Indians are on the warpath. From the endowment lands on east, they're blocking us. We're on their land, they say. They want justice. They want retribution. They want autonomy. Don't tell me, noble savage. So do I. Traffic moves nose to bumper like a procession of slugs. At this rate, it'll be hours before I even get out of town, let alone home. There was a time when I could afford to live in town. There was even a time when I wanted to. Now, all I want to do is scream. There's a group of Indian kids at the roadside, enjoying the chaos their parents have wrought. I bear them no ill will. The natives are a conquered people, drunk and unemployed, no threat to anyone. I sympathize. I honk my horn in support. Thunk! A spider web explodes across my windshield, glassy cracks dividing and redividing into a network too fine for my eyes to follow. I can barely see through. Jesus! That son of a bitch threw a rock at me! There he is, winding up for another. No, he's after someone else this time. Our ancestors weren't nice to their ancestors, and this brat thinks that gives him some God-given moral right to trash other people's property. I don't have to take this. I didn't take their fucking land away from them. Get off to the side, onto the shoulder. Now floor it. Watch the skid, and look at those punks scrambling out of the way. One of them isn't quite fast enough. Catches my eye as he rolls off the hood, and holy shit, did his sneer vanish in a hurry. I do believe he already regrets the rashness of his actions, and we've barely started dancing yet. I turn off the ignition. I pocket the keys. I get out of the car. There are people shouting somewhere very far away, and horns honking. They sound almost the same. Someone gets up off the pavement in front of me, nursing his leg. He doesn't look so tough now, does he? Like it's just dawned on him that they lost Oka years ago. Where did all your friends go, fucker? Where's Lasagna when you need him? Okay, you want to wail about oppression? I'll show you oppression, you greasy Indian brat. I'm going to teach you a lesson you won't ever forget. My muscles are knotted so tightly I wonder why my own ligaments haven't been torn out at the roots. I'm dimly aware that this is more or less normal for me now. But I know that I'll feel better soon. Well, that was vile. There's a reason that one probably has never been reprinted anywhere ever. And yet, Incorruptible is the one that's been banished. I don't know why that is. Anyway. This one is a very grim one. Very edgy one. Fortunately, it's not as racist, sort of. It's speciesist, though. So, he says, this story has that certain verisimilitude that speaks of first-hand experience. During my brief tenure as a credentialed whore at UBC's Marine Mammal Unit, I interacted extensively with aquarium apologists, animal rights activists, and behind-the-scenes grunts in their natural habitats. I observed them. I took notes. I resisted the temptation to toss them cookies as a reward for their performances, as I resisted the somewhat stronger temptation to break their fucking skulls over the endless political bullshit that kept me from doing any real biology. What I couldn't resist was the temptation to write this story. I had a lot of help from my collaborator, not so much on the biology, perhaps, but definitely on the funny bits. Bulk food first appeared in On Spec in 1999. The illustration that ran with it is on display in the gallery. The science, the resident/transient stuff, the infant mortality rates, all the chrome that predates the breakthrough, is pretty much legit. Race Rocks is a real marine mammal hangout. Those familiar with the layout of the Vancouver Public Aquarium might experience a certain sense of déjà vu as they follow Doug Larga on his adventures. The characters themselves are, sadly, more real than you'd like to believe. In fact, even the names bear a certain, but utterly non-prosecutable, similarity to actual public figures on both sides of the whales in captivity debate. God help me, looking back, I almost miss those duplicitous scumbags. So yeah, sorry about that last one. That last one was, I did not remember how bad that one was. I would not have done that otherwise. Before one gets too excited, I'm fairly confident, not absolutely confident, but fairly confident that Peter Watts is not a rabid, virulent racist. It is not shown elsewhere, at least so far as I can tell. Nihilistic?
Maybe, maybe not. Depends on your perspective. Cynical? You bet your sweet bippy. Misanthropic? Yeah, probably. Anyway, this is Bulk Food by Peter Watts and Laurie Channer. Anna Marie Hamilton, animal rights microstar, bastes in the... Bastes? Is that the right word? Anna Marie Hamilton, Anna Marie Hamilton, animal rights microstar. Okay, it's because there's 6 words that share very similar start. Okay. Bulk Food by Peter Watts and Laurie Channer. Anna Marie Hamilton, animal rights microstar, bastes in the media spotlight just outside the aquarium gates. Her followers hang on every movement, their placards rising and falling like cardboard whitecaps to the rhythm of their chant. 2, 4, 6, 8, transients are what we hate. Transients are what we hate, that's better. One whale hugger, bedecked in a sandwich board reading, "Eat the Transients," shouts over the din at a nearby reporter. "No, it's not about the homeless, it's a whale thing, man." That's horrible. The reporter isn't really listening. Anna Marie has just opened her mouth. The chanting dies instantly. It's always interesting to hear what Anna Marie Hamilton says. It changes so often these days. Back before the breakthrough, she was actually trying to free the whales. She was going around calling them prisoners and hostages, for Christ's sake. "Save the whales," she begins. The reporter grunts, disappointed. That again. Over at the turnstiles, Doug Larga swipes his debit card and passes through. The protesters register vaguely on his radar. Back in his student days, he considered joining, but only with the hope of scoring with some of those touchy-feely whale chicks. The things he did back then to get laid. Hell, the things he does now. A foghorn calls across the strait. Visibility's low on both sides of the world. The murk is gray above the waterline, green below. The sea around Race Rocks is empty. This place used to be a wildlife sanctuary. Now, it's a DMZ. 200 meters out from the islands, perimeter sensors listen patiently for intruders. There are none. The day's too cold for tourists, too foggy for spies, too damn wet for most terrestrial mammals. Nobody tries to cross over the line. Even under the line, traffic is way down from the old days. An occasional trio of black and white teardrops, each the size of a school bus. Every now and then, a knife-edged dorsal fin, tall as a man. Nothing else. There was a lot more happening out here a few years ago. Race Rocks used to be crawling with seals, sea lions, Dall's porpoises. It was a regular who's who back then. Eschrictus, Phocina, Zalophus, Eumetopius. All that meat has long since been cleaned out. Just one species comes through here these days. Orcinus. Nobody asks these visitors for ID. They've got their own way of doing things. 5 kilometers east, the commercial trawler Dipnet wallows forward at half throttle. Vague gray shapes crowd restlessly along the gunwales, slick, wet, hooded against the soupy atmosphere. Even a fog that drains all color from the world can't dampen... Of course, page down didn't work. Can't dampen the enthusiasm on board. Snatches of song drift across the waves, male and female voices in chorus. And they'll know we are sisters by our love, by our love. 25 meters down, a string of clicks ratchets through the water column. It sounds like the drumming of impatient fingers. Doug's got everything figured. He's found the perfect position, right next to the rim where the gangway extends over the tank like a big fiberglass tongue. Other spectators, with less foresight or less motivation, fill the bleachers ringing the main tank. Plexi splash guards separate them from a million gallons of filtered seawater and the predatory behemoth within. On the far side of the tank, more fiberglass and a few tons of molded cement impersonate a rocky coastline.
Every few moments, a smooth black back rolls across the surface, its dorsal fin stiff as a horny penis. No floppy fin syndrome here, no siree. This isn't the old days. The show is due to start momentarily. Doug uses the time to go over the plan once more. 20 seconds from tongue to gallery. Another 35 to the gift shop. 55 seconds total if he doesn't run into anyone. Perhaps 60 if he does. He'll beat them all. Doug Larga is a man on a mission. A fanfare from the poolside speakers. A perky blonde emerges through a sudden hole in the coastal facade, wearing the traditional garb of the order, white shorts and a ducky blue staff shirt. An odd-looking piece of electronics hangs off her belt. A headset mic arcs across one cheek. The crowd cheers. Behind the blonde, some Japanese guy hovers in the wings with an equally Japanese kid of about 12. The woman waves them on deck as she greets the audience. "Good afternoon," she chirps resoundingly over the speakers. "Welcome to the aquarium, and welcome to today's whale show." More applause. "Our special guest today is Tetsuo Yamamoto and his father, Herschel." The woman raises one arm over the water. "And our other special guest is, of course, Shamu." Doug snorts. They're always called Shamu. The aquarium doesn't put much thought into naming killer whales these days. "My name is Ramona, and I'll be your naturalist today." She waits for applause. There isn't much, but she acknowledges it like a standing ovation and goes into patter. "Now, of course, we've been able to understand Orcan ever since the breakthrough, but we still can't speak it, at least not without some very expensive hardware to help us with the higher frequencies. Fortunately, our state-of-the-art translation software, developed right here at the aquarium, lets our species talk to each other. I'll be asking Shamu to do some behaviors, especially so Tetsuo here can interact with him." Figures the kid would be center stage. Probably some Japanese rite of passage. Number one's son looks like a typical clumsy, thumb-fingered pre-adolescent. This could be the day. "As you may have learned from our award-winning educational displays," Ramona continues brightly, "our coast is home to two different orca societies, residents and transients. Both societies are ruled by the oldest females, the matriarchs, but beyond that they don't have much in common. In fact, they actively hate each other." A rhythmic stomping begins from somewhere in the crowd. Ramona cranks up the smile and the volume and forges ahead. Research and education. That's the aquarium's motto, and they're sticking to it. You don't get to the good stuff until you've learned something. "Now, we've known since the 1970s that transients hunt seals, dolphins, even other whales, while the residents feed only on fish. We didn't know why until after the breakthrough, though. It turns out that residents are the killer whale version of animal rights activists." This is obviously supposed to be a joke. Nobody's laughed at that line since Doug started casing this place over a year ago, but the song remains the same. Unfazed, Ramona continues, "Yes, the residents consider it unethical to eat other mammals. Transients, on the other hand, believe that their gods have given them the right to eat anything in the ocean. Each group regards the other as immoral, and residents and transients have not been on speaking terms for hundreds of years. Of course, we at the aquarium haven't taken sides. Most humans know better than to interfere in the religious affairs of others." Ramona pauses. A faint chant of assembled voices drifts into the silence from beyond the outer wall. "Hey ho! Hey ho! The matriarchs have got to go!" Ramona smiles. "And despite what some people might think," she continues, "there's no such thing as a vegetarian orca." Not yet, anyway. Dipnet chugs steadily wit. Dipnet chugs steadily west. Her cargo of ambassadors scans the waves for any sign of the natives, their faith too strong to falter before anything so inconsequential as zero visibility. Not everyone gets to commune with an alien intelligence. a superior intelligence in many ways. Not in every way, of course. Many on the Dipnet long for the good old days of moral absolutes, the days when meat was murder only when humans ate it. Everything was so clear back then to anyone who wasn't a puppet of the industrial protein complex. There was a ready answer to anything the ignorancia. There was a ready answer to anything the ignorancia might ask. How come it's okay for sharks to kill baby seals? Because sharks aren't moral agents. They can't see the ethical implications of their actions. How come it's not okay for people to kill baby seals? Because we can. Now, orcas are moral agents too. They talk. They think. They reason. Not that that's any surprise to Dipnet's passengers, of course. They knew the truth way back when all those bozo scientists were insisting that orcas were basically chimps with fins. But sometimes, too much insight can lead to the wrong kind of questions that distract one from the truth. Questions like, how come it's okay for orcas to kill baby seals, but we can't? If only those idiot scientists hadn't barged in and proved everything. Now there's no choice but to get the orcas to give up meat. The residents have the greatest moral potential. At least they draw the line at fish. The transients remain relentlessly bull-headed in their mammalvory, but perhaps the residents can be brought to full enlightenment. Back on shore, one of the West Coast's best-known Kirlian nutritionists is working tirelessly on alternate ways to meet Orkinus's dietary requirements. She's already had some spectacular successes with her own cats. Not only is a vegan diet vastly more efficient than conventional pet foods, the cats eat only a fraction of what they used to, but the felines have so much more energy now that they're always out on the prowl. You hardly ever see them at home anymore. Gosh, I wonder why. Not everything goes so well, of course. There have been setbacks. In hindsight, it may have been premature to dump that 1,000 heads of romaine lettuce onto A4 pod last summer during their spring migration. Not only did the residents fail to convert to veganism, but apparently they'd actually been considering certain exceptions to their eat no mammals policy. Fortunately, everyone on the boat had made it back okay. But that's in the past. Live and learn. Today, it is enough to stand in solidarity with the residents against the mammalophagous transient foe, to add human voices in peaceful protest for a just cause. The moral education can come later. Now it is time to make friends. The men and women of the Dipnet have the utmost faith in their abilities in this regard. They're ready, they're willing, they're the best of the best. What else could they be? Every last one of them was hand-picked by Anna Marie Hamilton. Shamu sails past Doug in mid-air, his ivory belly a good 2 meters above water level. Their eyes meet. For all this talk about killer whale intelligence, it still looks like a big dumb fish to Doug. It belly flops. A small tsunami climbs the splash guards. A few scattered voices go, "Ooh." Now, Shamu is a transient, so of course he'd never normally eat fish, Ramona announces. This is not entirely true. Back before the breakthrough, fish was all captive transients ever got. A decent meal plan was one of the first things they negotiated when the language barrier fell. So to feed him what he really wants, he knows he has to hide for a bit. Ramona touches a control on her belt and speaks into the mic. What's coming out of the speakers now isn't English. It sounds more like fingernails on a blackboard. Shamu spits back a series of clicks and sinks below the surface. Waves surge back and forth across the tank, playing themselves out against the walls. Doug, standing on tiptoes, can just barely make out the black and white shape lurking near the bottom of the tank, like a squad car at a radar trap. Peripheral movement. Doug glances up as a great chocolate-colored shape lumbers out onto the deck. It's twice the size of the man who herds it on stage with a little help from an electric cattle prod. Some of you may recognize this big bruiser, Ramona's switched back to English. Yes, this is a stellar sea lion. When he was just a pup, scientists from the North Pacific Fishing Consortium, one of the aquarium's proudest sponsors, rescued him and some of his friends from the wild. They were part of a research project that was intended to promote the conservation of sea lions in the North Pacific. The sea lion darts its head back and forth, snorting like a horse. Its wet, brown eyes blink stupidly. And not a moment too soon. As you may know from our ever-popular pinniped habitat, stellars were declared extinct in the wild just 5 years ago. This is now one of the only creatures in the world where you can still see... This is now one of the only places in the world where you can still see these magnificent creatures, and we take our responsibility to our charges very seriously. We go to great lengths to ensure that everything about their environment is as natural as possible. Including... Ramona pauses for effect. Predators. A ragged cheer rises up from the bleachers. Spooked, the sea lion bobs its head like a fat, furry metronome. The animal wheels around the way it came, but the guy with the prod is blocking its way. Please try to not make any loud noises or sudden moves, Ramona smiles belatedly. With a few nudges from the cattle prod, the sea lion slides into the water. It dives immediately, finally curious about its big new home. Apparently, it discovers all it wants to in about half a second, after which it shoots from the center of the pool like a Polaris missile. It doesn't quite achieve escape velocity and hits the water running, lunging for the edge as fast as its flippers can churn. Shamu rises up like Shiva. One effortless chomp, and the stellar explodes like a big wet piñata. A curtain of blood drenches the plexi barriers. Streamers of intestine fly through the air like shiny pink fire hoses. The audience goes wild. This is the kind of award-winning educational display they can relate to. Shamu surges back and forth, mopping up leftover sea lion. It takes less than a minute. By the time he's finished, Ramona has the harpoon set up on the gangway. 2 kilometers out, one of the Chosen hears a blow and alerts the others. The pilgrims again fall expectantly silent, undaunted by the fact that the first 3 times turned out to be the first mate blowing his nose. To be honest, nobody here has ever heard a real orca blow, not firsthand. No civilized human being would ever patronize a whale jail, and whale-watching tours have been banned for years. They said it was a harassment issue, but everyone knows it was just Bob Finch and his aquarium industry cronies out to eliminate the competition. The passengers huddle quietly in the fog, straining to hear above Dipnet's diesel cough. Whoosh! There! I knew it! And sure enough, something rolls across a fog-free patch of surface a few meters to port. There! See? Whoosh! Whoosh! 2 more to starboard. Leviathan has come to greet them. Her very breath seems to dispel the fog. A pale patch of tissue paper sun lightens the sky. There is much rejoicing. 1 or 2 people close their eyes, choosing to commune with the orcas telepathically. No truly enlightened soul would resort to crass, earth-raping technology to make contact. Several others bring out dog-eared editions of Big's Guide to the Genealogy and Natural History of Killer Whales. Anna Marie has told them they'll be meeting L1, a southern resident pod. Hungry eyes alternately scan the pages and the rolling black flanks for telltale nicks and markings. Look, is that L55? See that pointy bit on the saddle patch? No, it's L2. Of course it's L2. One of the telepaths speaks up. You shouldn't call them by their human names. They might find it offensive. Chastened silence falls over the acolytes. After a moment, someone clears her throat. What should we call them? What should we call them? The telepath looks about quickly. This one, she points to the fin nearest the boat, tells me she's called, Sister Stargazer. The others, ooh, in unison. Their hands fly to the crystals nestled beneath their rain ponchos. 6 foot dorsal, mutters the first mate. Male. No one notices. Oh, look at that big one. I think that's the matriarch. Are you sure this is even L-Pod? Someone else asks uncertainly. There aren't very many of them. Isn't L1 supposed to be a big pod? And I thought I saw... That is, wasn't that big one P28? That stops everyone cold. P28 is transient, says a 40-ish woman with periwinkle shells braided into her long, graying hair. L1 is a resident pod. The accusation is clear. Is this man calling Anna Marie Hamilton a liar? The heretic falters in a stony silence. Well, that's what the guide says. He holds the document out like a protective amulet. Give me that. Periwinkle snatches the book away, rifles through the pages. This is the old edition. She waves the copyright page. This was printed back in the 1980s, for goddess's sake. You're supposed to have the new edition, the one Anna Marie approved. This is definitely L1. Periwinkle throws the discredited volume over the side. Bob Finch had a hand in all those old guides until '02. You can't trust anything from before then. The wheelhouse hatch swings open. Dipnet's captain, a gangly old salt whose ears look as though they've been attached upside down, clears his throat.
Got a message coming in, he announces over the growl of the engine. I'll put it on the speakers.
The hatch swings shut. A message. Of course. Dipnet has all the technology, the hydrophones, the computers, everything it needs for the unenlightened to communicate with both species. There's a speaker mounted on the roof of the cabin, pointing down at the rear deck. It burps static for a moment, then... Sisters, hurry. A squeal of feedback. Grandmother says hello. Count on crass Western technology to turn a beautiful alien tongue into pidgin English. Ooh, says someone at the gunwales. Look. The orcas are pacing Dipnet on either side, rolling and breathing in perfect sync. They want us to follow them, Periwinkle says excitedly. Yes, they do, intones one of the telepaths. I can feel it. The orcas are so close to the boat they're almost touching the hull. Dipnet plows straight ahead. Just as well. The whales aren't leaving enough room for course changes anyway. The chair on the gangway is obviously not meant for children. Ramona fusses with the straps, cranks the crosshairs down to child height. She offers patient instruction in the use of the harpoon. Papa-san hollers up instructions of his own in Japanese. Conflicting ones, apparently. Tetsuo, bouncing excitedly in the harness, gives nothing but grief. Herschel continues his cheerful instigation. Hey, lady, we paid 10 grand for this. We do it our way, thank you so much. He doesn't seem to have noticed that Ramona's smile shows more teeth than usual. This looks very promising. Doug glances back over his shoulder. The route's still clear. 55 seconds. Shamu rolls past on the other side of the plexi. The crowd laughs. Doug turns back to center stage. Ramona's had enough. She's jumped down from Tetsuo's perch and is barking at Herschel in Japanese. Or maybe in Sea Lion. Herschel backs away, hands held up placatingly against Ramona's advance. It's entertaining enough, but Doug keeps his eyes on Tetsuo. The kid is the key. Adult squabbles don't interest a 10-year-old. He's strapped in at the controls of the best bloody video game since the parents' groups came down on Nintendo. If it's going to happen at all, Doug knows it's going to happen. Tetsuo squeezes the trigger. Now. Ramona turns just in time to see the harpoon strike home. The crowd cheers. Tetsuo shrieks in delight. Shamu just shrieks, thrashing. A pink cloud puffs from his blowhole. Doug is already half-turned, one foot raised to motor. He checks himself. Wait for it, it still might be clean. Shit! You were supposed to wait! Ramona's mic is offline, but it doesn't matter. You could hear that yell all the way over in the Arctic exhibit. She brings her translator online, barks syllables. The ringside speakers chirp and whistle. Shamu whistles back, spasming as though electrocuted. His flukes churn the water into pink froth. "His lungs punctured," Ramona calls over to the guy with the cattle prod. Prodmeister disappears backstage. Ramona wheels on Tetsuo. "You were supposed to wait until I told him to hold still. Do you want him to suffer? It'll take days to die from a hit like that. That's it. Go." He knows what's coming. Herschel, out his $10,000, will demand that his son get another chance. The aquarium will stand firm. 10 grand buys one shot, not one kill. No, sir, you can't try again unless you're willing to pay. Herschel's own shrieks will go ultrasonic. Prodmeister will come back with another harpoon, a bigger, no-nonsense harpoon this time. Perhaps the guests will try and wrestle it away. That's resulted in an unfortunate accident or two. Doesn't matter. Doug's not going to be around for any of it. He's already halfway out of the amphitheater. From the corner of his eye, he can see his competition, caught flat-footed, just starting to rise from the bleachers. Some of them, closer to the main theater entrance, would still have a chance to beat him if he was going the usual route. He's not. Doug Larga may be the first person in recorded history to have actually read the award-winning educational displays in the underwater gallery, and that gives him all the edge he needs. That's where he's headed now, at top speed. Herschel and his 10 grand. Tetsuo and his lousy aim. Doug could kiss them both. When a guest makes a kill, they get to keep the carcass. But when they fuck up, it's whale steaks in the gift shop. Well, no one expected the whales to be such assholes. Certainly not Anna Marie Hamilton and her army of whale huggers. The gospel, according to Anna Marie, said that orcas, you never called them killer whales, were gentle, intelligent creatures who lived in harmonious matriarchal societies. Humans were ethically bound to respect their cultural autonomy. Kidnapping these creatures from the wild, tearing them from their nurturing female-centered family units, and selling them into bondage for barbaric human entertainment, this went beyond mere animal abuse. This was slavery, pure and simple. That was all before the breakthrough, of course. These days, it's kind of hard to rail against the enslavement of orcas when every school kid knows that all orca society, resident or transient, is based on slavery. Always has been. The matriarchs aren't kindly nurturing feminist grandmas, they're 8-ton black and white mommy dearests with really big teeth. And their children aren't treasured guardians of the next generation either. They're genetic commodities, a common currency for trade between pods, and who knew what uses that they got put to? It's a scientific fact that that almost half of all killer whales die before reaching their first birthday. That infant mortality stat has been a godsend to the aquarium industry ever since it was derived in the 1970s. Well, of course, it's tragic that another calf died here in our habitat, but you know, even in the wild, killer whales just aren't very good parents. But even the whale jailers were taken aback to be proven so utterly right. It didn't take them long to recover from the shock, though, to embrace the irrefutable evidence of this kindred intelligence, to see the error of their ways, to reach out across that immense interspecies gulf with a business proposition. And what do you know? The matriarchs were more than happy to cut a deal. Slavers of the 7 seas, a wall-sized view screen shouts in capital letters. Beside it, smaller screens run looped footage already seen a million times in every living room on the continent. Priests and politicians and longliners and whale huggers riding the friendship flotilla out into history to sign the first formal agreement with the matriarch of J-Pod. On the other side of the gallery, past 2-inch plexi, the pinkness in the water is already starting to fade. Doug skids to a halt in front of an orca family tree, no less boring for its catchy backlit pastel-on-black color scheme. He scans the headings. G12 pod, G12, G8, G27, exit G33. There, between G27 and G33. Evidently, municipal building codes require an emergency exit here. For some reason, the aquarium has incorporated it into the Orca family tree. Right there in plain sight as the law requires, but subtle, unobtrusive. In fact, damn near invisible to anyone who hasn't actually read the genealogies line by line. This is Doug's secret passage. He's done his homework. The blueprints are on file at City Hall, accessible to anyone who cares to look. On the other side of this invisible door, backstage corridors run off in 3 separate directions, each servicing a different gallery. All of them, eventually, end up outside. One of them opens into the gift shop. Doug pushes at a spot on the wall. It swings open. Behind him, a muffled poof filters through from the main tank, followed by an inhuman squeal. Doug dives through the doorway without looking back. Turn right. Run. Backstage, the gallery displays are ugly constructions of fiberglass and PVC. Every object gurgles or hums. Salt crusts everything. Doug's foot slips in a puddle. He starts to go over, grabs at the nearest handhold. A rack of hip waders topples in his stead. Left. Run. A row of filter pumps tears by on one side, a bank of holding tanks on the other. A dozen species of quarantined fish eye his transit with glassy indifference. He rounds a corner. An unexpected barrier catches his shin. Doug sprawls across a stack of loose plywood. Splinters bury themselves in the balls of his hands. Fuck! He scrambles to his feet, ignoring the pain. There are worse things than pain. There's the wrath of Alice if he comes home empty-handed. Right there, a wood-paneled door. Not one of the crappy green metal doors that are good enough for the fish feeders and janitors, but a nice oak job with a brass handle. That's got to be the entrance into the gift shop. He's almost there, and it's even opening for him. It's opening from the other side, and he dives straight through, right into the waiting bosom of the woman coming from the other direction. He thinks she looks familiar in the split second before they both go over. Doug catches a glimpse of someone else as a dozen vectors of force and inertia converge incompatibly on his ankle. There's a moment of brief, bright pain. Ow! Before he hits the floor. The good news is, he lands on a carpet with a very deep pile. The bad news is, rug burn tears most of the remaining skin off his palms. He lies there, taking collect calls from every sensory nerve in his body. 2 people are looking down at him. He forgets all about the pain when he recognizes who they are. Saint Anna. And the devil himself. Dipnet has arrived. The perimeter is all around them. A float line demarcated by warning buoys, a limited entry circle a kilometer across. Scientists are only sometimes permitted here. Tourists are forbidden. But the gate swings open for Dipnet. Now she chugs towards the center of the communion zone. The fog has partially lifted. The perimeter gate fades astern, while a tiny white dot resolves in the distance ahead. Dipnet's escort remains close on either side. They've said nothing since that one brief message in the strait, although the telepaths say the orcas are brimming with goodwill and harmony. The floating dock is close enough to see clearly now, anchored in the center of the zone, a white disk about 20 meters across. It seems featureless, beyond a few cleats for tying up. This is the way the orcas like things. This is their place, and they don't want it cluttered with non-essentials. A place to land, a space to stand, and race rocks looming out of the fog in the middle distance. Beyond that, only orcas and ocean. "Is there a bathroom?" someone asks. The captain of the Dipnet shakes his head, more in resignation than answer. He pulls back on the throttle while the mate, waiting on the foredeck with a coil of nylon rope, He pulls back on the throttle while the mate, waiting on the foredeck with a coil of nylon rope, jumps onto the platform and reels Dipnet in to the dock.
This is it, folks, the captain announces. Everybody off.
The engine is still idling. Aren't you going to tie up? Periwinkle asks. The captain shakes his head.
You're the ambassadors. We're just the taxi. They don't want us in the zone while you commune.
Periwinkle smiles patiently. She hears the resentment in the captain's voice, but she understands. It must be hard, seeing the chosen few going to make history while he just drives the boat. She feels sorry for him. She resolves to chant with him when he comes back to pick them up. The captain grunts and waves her away. He sniffs and wonders, not for the first time, if this woman remembered to clean the snails out of those shells before incorporating them into her own personal fashion statement. Or maybe it's one of those natural fragrances they're advertising these days. The passengers file onto the platform. The first mate, still holding Dipnet's leash, leaps back onto the foredeck. The boat growls backwards, changes gear, and wallows off into the haze. The sound of her engine fades with distance. Eventually, all is quiet again. The chosen look about eagerly, not wanting to speak in this holy place. The orcas that guided them here have disappeared. Swells lap against the floats. The Race Rock's lighthouse complains about the fog. Hey, you guys! It's the heretic again. He's watching the boat recede. When exactly are they supposed to be coming back for us? The others don't answer. This is a quiet moment, a sacred moment. It's no time to chatter about logistics. This guy doesn't know the first thing about reverence. Really, sometimes they wonder how he ever made the cut. One whole plexiglass wall looks into the turquoise arena of the killer whale tank. A pair of tail flukes disappear up through the surface in ratcheting increments. The opposite wall serves as little more than a frame for the biggest flat-screen monitor Doug has ever seen. Murky green water swirls across that display. Wriggling wavelight reflects off a glass coffee table in the middle of the room. An antique oak desk looms behind it like a small wooden mesa. In the middle of it all, Doug looks up from the floor at Anna Marie Hamilton and Bob Finch, executive director of the aquarium. Anna Marie Hamilton and Bob Finch look back. This goes on for a moment or two.
Can I help you, sir?
Finch asks at last. I think I got lost, Doug says, experimentally putting his foot down on the floor. It hurts, but it feels limpable, not broken. The viewing gallery is that way, Anna Marie announces, pointing to a different door than the one through which Doug arrived, and I'm in the middle of some very tough negotiating, fighting for the freedom of our spiritual
Actually, and Miss Hamilton, I suspect that Mr.
Larga, Doug says weakly.
I suspect that Mr. Larga isn't all that interested in the boring details of our negotiations.
Finch extends a hand, helps Doug up off the carpet. Doug stands unsteadily.
I was looking for the gift shop.
His mission. Precious seconds, precious minutes, irretrievably lost while all those other dorks and bozos line up to lay claim for his meat. If he doesn't come home with the steaks, he'll be sleeping on the sofa for a week. Doug turns and lunges towards the door he came through. He forgets all about his ankle for the half second it takes for him to try and run on it. By the end of that same second, he's on the floor again.
My steaks, he whimpers. I was going to be at the head of the line. I had it planned to the second. Well, I must say,
Finch extends a helping hand again,
it's heartening to see someone so enthusiastic about the aquarium's new programs. Not everyone is, you know. Let me see what I can do.
Anna Marie Hamilton stands with her arms folded, sighing impatiently.
Mr. Finch, she says, if you think I'm going to let this distract me from the liberation of... Not now, Miss Hamilton. This will only take a moment, and then I promise we can get right back to your tough and uncompromising negotiations. Finch takes a step towards the door and turns back to Doug. Say, Mr. Larga, would you like to talk to a killer whale while you're waiting? A matriarch? We have a live link to Wanda Fuka. He raises an arm to the flat screen on one wall. Live? Emotions squabble in Doug's cortex. The pain of failure, the hope of salvation, and now a vague discomfort. I don't know. I mean, are they okay with this? Are they? Aren't they? I mean, they are okay with this, aren't they? The whole whale show thing? Mr. Larga, not only are they okay with it, it was their idea. So how about it? A conversation with a real alien intelligence? I don't know, Doug stammers. I don't know what I'd say. Anna Marie snorts. Finch draws a remote control from his blazer. I'm sure you'll think of something. He points the remote at the flat screen, thumbs a control. Nothing obvious happens. Back in a moment, Finch promises, and closes the door behind him. Anna Marie turns her back. Doug wonders if maybe she's offended by someone who would be in such a rush to line up for Orca steaks. Or maybe she just doesn't like people very much. A long, mournful whistle. Sister Predator, intones an artificial voice. Doug turns to the flat screen. A black and white shape looms up in the murky green wash of the Juan de Fuca Strait. Lipless jaws open a crack. A zigzag crescent of conical teeth reflects gray in the dim light. That whistle again. In one corner of the flat screen, a flashing green tag. Receiving. Fellow Sister Predator, welcome. Doug gawks. Clicks. 2 rapid-fire squeals. A moan. More clicks. Receiving. I am second grandmother. I trust you enjoy aquarium and its many award-winning educational displays. Bzzzt. In the upper left-hand corner of the screen, line interrupt. Silence. At a panel on Finch's desk, Anna Marie Hamilton takes her finger off a red button. Wow, Doug says. It was really talking. Anna Marie rolls her eyes. Yeah, well, it's not like they're going to beat us on the SATs or anything. A reporter waylays Bob Finch in her public corridor on his way to the gift shop. She seeks a reaction in the wake of Hamilton's demonstration. Finch considers. We agree with the activists on one score. Orcas have their own values and their own society, and we're morally bound to respect their choices. He smiles faintly. Where Ms. Hamilton and I part ways, of course, is that she never bothered to find out what those values were before leaping to defend them. The door opens. Finch the Savior stands in the doorway with a wooden box in one hand, a plastic bag in the other. Doug, rising with his hopes off the couch, forgets all about the matriarch and his ankle. Are those my steaks? Finch smiles. Mr. Larga, it takes several days to prepare the merchandise. Each sample has to be measured, weighed, and studied in accordance to our mandate of conservation through research. Oh, right, Doug nods. I knew that. The gift shop is only taking a list of names. Right. And unfortunately, all of today's specimen has already been spoken for. The lineup stretches all the way back into the Amazon gallery, in fact, so I brought a couple of items which I thought might do instead. Finch says. He holds up the bag. There was quite a run on these. I was lucky to get one. Doug squints at the label. Lil Ahab Miniature Harpoon Kit, rubber tipped, ages 6 and up. Everyone wants to prove that they're better shots than our guests. Finch chuckles. I suspect a lot of family dogs may be discomfited tonight. I thought your children might enjoy. I don't have kids, Doug says, but I have a dog. He takes the package. What else? Finch holds out the wooden box. I was able to locate some nice harbor seal. Finch, the false prophet. Finch, the betrayer. Harbor seal? Harbor seal? Your gift shop is lousy with harbor seal. It was marked down. My in-laws are coming over this weekend and you want me to feed them harbor seal? Why don't I just give them bologna sandwiches? My dog won't eat harbor seal. Finch shakes his head. He seems more saddened than offended. I'm sorry you feel that way, Mr. Larga. I'm afraid there's nothing else we can do for you. Doug wobbles dangerously on his good leg. I was injured in your aquarium. I'll sue. Doug, if you were injured, Mr. Larga, you were injured en route from somewhere that you weren't legally supposed to be in the first place. Now, please. Finch opens the door a bit wider, just in case Doug hasn't got the point. Not supposed to be in. That was a fire exit route, which, by the way, Doug's voice is becalmed by a sudden sense of impending victory, was improperly signed. Finch blinks. Improperly? You can barely see that exit sign, Doug says. It's buried way down in one of those stupid Orca family trees. If there was ever a fire, nobody would even find it. I mean, who stops to read award-winning educational displays when their pants are on fire? Mr. Larga, the viewing gallery is solid cement on one side and 1,000,000 gallons of seawater on the other. The odds of a fire are so minuscule. We'll see whether the fire marshal's office thinks so. We'll see whether the News at 6 consumer advocate thinks so. Doug triumphantly folds his arms. There is a moment of silence. Finally, Finch sighs and closes the door. I'm really going to have to put my foot down with the art department about that. I mean, aesthetics or no aesthetics. I want my orca steaks. Doug says. Finch walks to the wall behind his desk. A touch on a hidden control and a section of paneling slides away. Behind it, cigar boxes sit neatly arranged on grillwork shelves, lit by the unmistakable glow of a refrigerator light bulb. Finch turns around, one of the boxes open in his hands. Doug falls silent, disbelieving. It's not cigars in those boxes. As I said, there are no orca steaks available. Finch begins, but I can offer you some beluga sushi from my private stock. Doug takes a hop forward. Another. It's almost impossible to get beluga. And this isn't the black market, St. Lawrence beluga, the stuff that gives you mercury poisoning if you eat it more than twice a year. This is absolute primo Hudson Bay beluga. The only people harpooning them are a few captive Inuit on a natural habitat reserve out of Churchill, and even they only get away with it because they keep pushing the Aboriginal rights angle. Nobody's figured out belugan yet. From what Doug's heard, belugas are probably too stupid to even have a language, so nobody needs to cut a deal with them. The box in Finch's hands costs about what Doug would make in a week. Will this be acceptable? Bob Finch asks politely. Doug tries to be cool. Well, I suppose so. He's almost sure they don't hear the squeak in his voice. To the untrained eye, it looks like rambunctious play. In fact, the cavorting and splashing and belly flopping is a synchronized and complex behavior. Cooperative hunting, it's called. First reported from the Antarctic, when a pod of killer whales was seen creating a mini tidal wave to wash a crab-eater seal off an ice floe. Definite sign of intelligence, that, the first mate's been told. He squints through his binoculars and the intermittent fog until the whales finish. The first mate pulls open the wheelhouse hatch and climbs inside. The captain throws dipnet into gear, singing, "And they'll know we are sisters by our love, by our..." The mate picks up the tune and rummages in a locker, surfaces with a bottle of Crown Royal. "Good show today." He raises the bottle in salute. Doug Larga safely departed, Bob Finch extracts a pair of wine glasses from the shelves beneath the coffee table. He fills them from a convenient bottle of Chardonnay while Anna Marie taps a panel beside the flat screen. The distant gurgling of Juan de Fuca fills the room once more. Finch presents the activist with her glass.
Any problems on your end? Hamilton snorts, still fiddling one-handed with the controls. You kidding? Turnover in the movement has always been high, and nobody turns down a chance to commune with the whales. It's a real adventure for them. The wall monitor flickers into split-screen mode. One side still contains Juan de Fuca, newly restricted. The other shows one of the aquarium's backstage holding tanks. A young male orca noses along its perimeter. Finch raises his glass, first to the matriarch on the screen, to your delicacies, then to the matriarch in his office, and to ours. Finally, he turns to the image of the holding tank. The whale there looks back at him with eyes like big black marbles. Welcome to the aquarium, Finch says. A signature whistle carries through the sound system. Name is, says the speaker. No English equivalent, flashes the readout after a moment. That's a fine name, Finch remarks, but why don't we give you a special new name? I think we'll call you Shamu. Adventure, Shamu says. Grandmother says this place adventure. Too small. I stay here long? Bob Finch glances at Anna Marie Hamilton. Anna Marie Hamilton glances at Bob Finch. Not long, grandson, says an alien voice from the cool, distant waters of Juan de Fuca. Not long at all. And that was Bulk Food by Peter Watts and Laurie Channer. What? It's a cultural exchange. And resource exchange. The heavy implication is that they throw us occasional shamus that we then murder and eat because we're barbarians, and we throw them like Greenpeacers and save the whalesers for food. It's about food. They're eating us. We're eating them. It's awesome. It's great. It's horrible. It's very bleak. It is darkly satirical. Let's see. It is much later than I thought. How long is Gut Feelings? Zeros is very long. I can't really get away with doing that. I might have to call it for today. That leaves us a bunch left, though. Let's see. We've done the Colonel, I know that. I'm pretty sure I haven't done any of these that I did today before. If I did, I'm sorry, I forgot. I forgot it. Anyway, I'm going to be gone for the next 2 weeks. And change. So you will not see hide nor hair of me in that time. I will be away from internets and other such things. It is for my own sanity. But I will be back after that. I will be sure to make an announcement in the Discord. I will do that today. I will also update the, whatchamacallums, the playlists today. So that's all set and taken care of. I know I've been lazy and not done it for like a month and a half, 2 months. What else? When I get back, I'm not quite sure what we'll dive into, but I've got plenty of cool stuff lined up. So we'll see. Thanks to everyone who tuned in. Sorry some of these were kind of grim and kind of gross. Peter Watts has gotten better with age, I would say. Yes, I would say that. Anyway, while we're here, let's just check to see if there's any new love notes, comments, or YouTube trying to shut my channel down. Let's find out, shall we? One of those over and done with. Another half month, and I won't have 2 copyright strikes on me, which is nice. 19 days. Where are you? Where is this thing? Content detection. Here we go. Nope, nothing new. Good. That's good. That's good. Any new comments? That's okay. Anyway, is anyone listening after the fact? I'm sorry, and you're welcome, depending on which you'd rather have. Anything else salient? I don't know. Yeah, so for much of the rest of the year, I have planned mostly individual novels, not series. We'll see if I can actually stick to that for once. What I kind of wanted to do today, unfortunately, and I did not estimate how long these would take, was I would kind of loop back around and through conceptually. So, like, kind of the more recent parable equivalent to, what was it, Fractals, would probably be Gut Feelings. And then Bethlehem, I didn't really have an equivalent to, really. Anyway, I was thinking of doing Gut Feelings, which kind of acts as a nice flip side of Fractals, which is the horribly racist one. This one being, hey, what would make someone suddenly change like that? And the answer may surprise you. It was pretty cute. It's pretty cute. We'll do that later. I like keeping something in reserve just in case. So I guess we'll keep that in reserve, just in case. Anyway, or Peter Watts could surprise us and be like, hey, I'm going to actually release more material soon. He's killing me. Yeah, nothing new. Oh well. I know he's got a... so the third book in Blind Opraxia is being worked on off and on, but I think the next thing he'll be releasing is another Sunflowers book in the same setting as the Freeze Frame Revolution. No one knows when that's going to be out. I'm hoping they will. Well, I'm glad Haggup enjoyed. Thank you, Haggup. I'm glad you enjoyed. Peter Watts is a particular kind of edgy. He's definitely an acquired taste. I can understand people not liking him very easily. He happens to tickle me in the right bleak way. I don't think I could survive entirely on a diet of Peter Watts, but, you know, I enjoy him. So yeah, for this year, I've got a bunch of books that I definitely want to get done on stream, and then a couple definite maybes. I do want to do at least one culture novel by Ian M. Banks. It's got to happen. I'm going to get around to doing more of those anyway. Like, that's just a given. I do want to do some Bert Cole, who's also kind of an acquired taste. I'd compare him sort of to Hemingway, but not recognized as an American great. I think stylistically he's not totally dissimilar. Thematically he's not totally dissimilar. But kind of an unsung guy who just kind of vanished off the radar. But he's got some interesting books to his name. I'd probably do... There's two that I'd probably do that are kind of... They're nominally in the same setting. They're not really science fiction. They're science fiction adjacent, I guess, but it's not really. Well, we might not get to that until next year. We'll see. But otherwise, I've got a whole bunch of cool stuff lined up. So hopefully people will enjoy. This is but a 2-week break for me. I will absolutely continue. Can't stop, won't stop. I need this to stay sane. I thoroughly enjoy doing it. And it does not pay, which is an advantage, actually, because it means I don't have to keep shilling for it to get paid. I just can keep doing it and have fun. There's perks here. Would I mind getting paid? Probably not. Am I going to accept YouTube's monetization plan? No. No, I'm not. Eventually I'll get like a Patreon or something set up so people can throw money my way. But I just don't know what I would offer, other than just give me money. I guess I could send people like USB flash drives with stuff recorded on it, I don't know. I wouldn't edit it, because I'm a bum and I'm lazy. But I suppose I could do something like that, yeah.
There's other donation sites. I could set one of those up. I'm just lazy, you know, and busy, and lazy. Mostly the lazy one. Anyway, y'all have fun. Peace out to you too. Stay safe, stay sane, be decent to each other. See you all next time. Whenever that is. Soon. In 2 weeks. Alrighty.